Welcome to Straight No Chaser. So grab a glass and join your hosts, your girl Ann BZ, Thin Bad, and the Chief. Welcome to Straight No Chaser, where we never dilute the issues, we only serve the hard stuff. It's the Chief, and I'm joined today by Thin Bad.
Hey.
And of course, your girl Ambezy is on her way. During our last show, we reminded everyone that owning a home is part of the American dream. And as you all know, and everybody sees, there are at least 30 or more shows on the cable networks that feature people buying homes, they're flipping homes, fixing homes, or whatever else you can do to make that property homier. However, it can be difficult to achieve the American dream if you are not prepared, willing to do your homework, or take the necessary steps to ensure that you maintain creditworthiness. However, let's say you've done all those things. You have the income, the steady job, the acceptable credit scores, and most importantly, you found that dream home. It has the theater room, it has the den, the fireplace, the big yard, whatever it is that makes your family say, this is the house for us. And you've done it. You've achieved those credit scores, you have the money in the bank, and you're ready to go. And with all those things going on in your favor, this should be a Hollywood ending, without a doubt. But maybe it is a Hollywood ending, but one of those endings that makes you tell your friends, hey, you want to avoid that movie. The ending sucked because the buyer didn't get the dream house. She was redlined. What is redlining, and how does this happen to folks across the country? Well, tonight we have two realtors from the West Coast and from the East Coast to help us work through this whole thing they call redlining, something that's been very frustrating to buyers across the country, probably across the world, as they seek to achieve that dream of owning their own home. So again, tonight we have Miss Wavitra Jordan from the home team of Exit Landmark Realty in the Maryland and Virginia area. And of course, on the West Coast, we have Miss Trina Marie of the Signature Real Estate Group in Las Vegas, Nevada. And both of these ladies are here to talk to us about the business of redlining. But before we jump in, let me remind the audience that you can call in at 702-425-7789. Again, that's 702-425-7789. Or you can chat with us live. Either way, we want to hear from you. So, ladies, let me start by saying welcome. Welcome to the show.
Hey now.
All right.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me back.
Well, it's good to have both of you. And, of course, Wavitra, you were here last week helping us with that discussion of how do you qualify for a home. So we're certainly glad to have you back. And, of course, Trina Marie, we are very excited to have you here because you can give that local West Coast flavor about the real estate market. So we're just really glad to have you. So we're going to jump right into this now that we've had a chance to figure out what the topic is. But before we do that, though, I would like for both you ladies to just tell us very briefly about your real estate companies, and so the audience knows that we have some really seasoned professionals here talking to us about this important topic. Why don't we start with you, Trina Marie?
Hey, everybody. Again, Trina Marie Shaw here, and I'm with Signature Real Estate Group. One of our owners is Brandon Roberts, and he actually started the company probably about 10 years ago. He's been an agent for about 20 years, and he wanted to really make a difference as providing the top-of-line service to everyone, technology-wise, ethically. And we're really, really big about priding ourselves on being ethical with everyone and integrity. I operate with the highest integrity, and just really, truly passionate about just helping people and making sure people pick the best thing or do the best thing for them at that very moment. So just excited to be here.
Well, good. Thank you for coming out with us. And of course, Wavitra, tell our listeners about you and your company.
Hey, everyone. I'm Wavitra Jordan with the home team of Exit Landmark Realty. Exit is a national corporation, actually countrywide, including the U.S. and Canada, including Canada. And I'm licensed in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia, and I have a team of 10.
Fantastic. So let's jump right into this. And start with the obvious. And ladies, don't be bashful. Talk to us.
Tell it like it is.
That's right. Tell it like it is.
Straight, no chaser.
Okay.
That's right. Straight, no chaser. We have grown folk listening, so if you have to get colorful in your language, don't hold back. So, can both of you just kind of give us a layman's perspective of what the hell is redlining?
I always say to keep it pretty simple is looking at a map and basically taking out a red pen and circling the area that you feel that you, like a lender might not want to invest in because it could be an impoverished neighborhood, or demographics, which usually affects people of color, right? And those neighborhoods, they'll try not to invest in. And it could actually be a reverse. It could be in a very affluent neighborhood and you want to keep it a certain race or certain demographics, so they don't want to sell their house to someone that don't look like them.
Wow. And so I guess I'll just start from the DC area. Wavitra, is this a common thing that you're seeing on the East Coast rather, in the area where you practice?
So I hope you guys can hear me.
We can hear you fine.
This. Okay, I have seen this in, I wouldn't say it's common anymore as it had been, but it is still happening. And I've seen it in Virginia, and I've also seen it with some of our bigger banks in Maryland. Okay.
And Trina, on the West Coast, what are you seeing?
You know what, to be quite honest, it's came a long way. I agree with her. It's not as common, but there's other ways that people do it unintentionally. And I think for me, that's probably where I'm going to come from. That perspective when communicating, it's just, you just assume. You know, the world, sometimes you assume you want to live in this area. You assume that you want to be, quote unquote, with your people. You just assume. So in that regards, I think it's a little bit, it's still happening.
Okay. So kind of tell us what do you mean by that?
Unpack that one for me.
Yes.
So even, you know, for an agent, I have to be extremely careful. So if someone asks me, tell me about the demographics, I'd never go into details. Legally, I can't. I'm not supposed to. And if an agent does, they should be careful. You know, if they do, they should be careful with that. I always point them to, you know, they can Google things, they can look at the demographics, they can figure that out on their own. And I don't assume that because you are looking to purchase a home that, that you might want to live, let's say, out here in Las Vegas. That you want to live in a certain area because you are a certain race. I just make sure that I go ahead and ask questions as far as do they want to live close to the highway. You have to be extremely careful. If not, people are people, and we have came a long way, but still naturally, I think a lot of people just assume, do you want to live, you know, if you're black, do you want to live with your people, quote unquote? Do you want to live in a diverse neighborhood? Do you want to live in a neighborhood that's predominantly Caucasian? It happens.
So does that, and I guess for both of you ladies, does that happen across racial and gender lines, if you will? So, for example, if you have clients who are white, or if you have clients who are black or Chinese or whatever, do your clients kind of want to live, among their own culture and race, or do you find folks want to diversify? Because I'm assuming from listening to you that sometimes this can happen not intentionally, but just because of what you are seeking. Am I wrong with that assumption?
I agree with that. Yeah, I think that's correct. This is why Vitra. I think that's correct. I think unintentionally people, I mean, you kind of move towards what you're most comfortable with.
Right.
And so that, yeah, it happens across racial lines. I can tell you that I've had situations where my client has, I was a listing agent on a home, and I'm sitting in front of the house, and the neighbor comes and literally knocks on my window and says, "We don't want any Hispanics in this neighborhood. Oh, wow. Don't sell that house to an Hispanic." So yeah, it does happen. And I've also had my clients who are on the buy side be eliminated in a different, the fair housing laws have made it so that, redlining and drawing a red circle around, an area and coming together and saying we're not going to do loans there doesn't necessarily happen as obviously as it did before. Right. But it's more so like, for example, I had a client buying in Virginia, Northern Virginia, Fairfax, and she went in, and she was an African American woman. She went in. She happened to see the listing agent. The actual buyer there. I didn't know this until later on in the process, but I can tell you that I felt that they really didn't want her to have the house. They tried to do everything they could, and she was highly qualified to get her to not purchase that house, including no closing help, including I'm not doing any repairs. I'll put my house back on the market. Mm-hmm. You don't have to buy it type of thing. And I didn't know until she said, oh, yeah, when I was here during one, because someone else took her initially for me, I met the homeowner. And I was like, oh, my God. So, of course, I'm not going to say that to my client, but I knew exactly what was happening at that point because it's happened before in that same way. So I find more neighborhoods are people in the neighborhoods or on that street are saying, let's talk about what we want in this neighborhood.
I think there's
has been my experience.
I would agree with that too. And I think comes with the stigma of how many black people are in a neighborhood. For some reason, people may think that it brings down the value if more blacks or more people of color starts to move into a certain neighborhood. And there has been research, too, that have shown that usually middle-class whites, not so much the poorer-class whites, but middle-class whites will actually begin to move out if the percentage drop by 20%. So if it's 80%, Caucasian and 20% people of color, and then all of a sudden it drops to 60% Caucasian, research have shown that middle-class whites will start to move out because now it's becoming overpopulated, I guess, with people of color. And again, it's just a stigma.
Well, so as real estate agents, then I'm gonna let my man Thinbad jump in here because I can tell he's chomping at the bits. So when you start to see those types of things, when you start to see people saying, well, I'm not giving closing costs, I'm not cutting the grass, I'm not doing whatever the things are that sellers normally should do, what do you do as the real estate agent to sort of guide your clients through that? Do you sort of say, hey, maybe you want to look over here, or how do you help your client through that type of nonsense?
You're saying if the seller don't want to sell to them?
If you start to see the signs, Wavitra was talking about the things that she saw. They didn't want to do things. They almost wanted to pull the house off the market. Yeah. And so how do you, the both of you as real estate agents, when you start to feel that or you hear it, what do you do for your clients, and how do you guide them through the process, and what types of alternatives do you have available for you to pursue other things if necessary?